Hey guys, my name's Malia and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the transfer process, tips and tricks from going to a community college to a 4-year, my experience, and things that I wish I knew going into transfer season. We are approaching transfer season very fast. The year is flying by. It's already October or almost October. Right now it's September 30th, but you guys will be seeing this in October. So it's transfer season. It's time to fill out that FAFSA because FAFSA is a first come, first served basis. So make sure you go apply and get all your money's worth. And it's also time to be applying to transfer. So I'm guessing if you're watching this, you're a community college student and you might be a freshman or a sophomore just looking for information. And I'm here to tell you everything that I know because personally, I'm not a first generation college student. Both my parents went to college, but back then that was really different, and I'm the oldest sibling, so I didn't get to watch anyone go through this process. I was kind of the test dummy of what hoops do I have to jump through, who do I have to talk to, and I'm here to just help you guys out so that you guys don't have to do all that. I want to save you guys from having to jump through a bunch of hoops by sharing the tips that I've learned throughout my journey of transferring. So right now I am a junior at my 4-year, so I have completed the transfer process and it was a wild ride, so I'm here to tell you all about it and how I can help you. So I went to a JC, and I went to a JC that wasn't like the sister school to my high school, so I didn't really know a lot of people there, so it was still kind of hard to like figure out what to do and how to be going about things. But a lot of JCs are the same, so hopefully what recommendations I give you can apply to your JC. I have talked to friends who went to other junior colleges and everything's been pretty similar. So go ahead and stay tuned for some tips. Like, comment, and subscribe right now to be a part of my journey here on YouTube. You guys don't know how excited I am to do this video. I've been looking forward to it. When I started my YouTube channel and I was making my little video ideas, this one was like literally top 5 because I just had zero guidance when it came to it, and now that I'm done and it was successful, I'm so excited to share everything I learned with you guys. So let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so before I get into my tips and tricks, I just wanted to give you a little background story. So I'm a junior at my 4-year now, so I just finished the transfer season. I'm officially in my first semester at my new school, and I'm very excited. The transfer process can be very overwhelming, and that's why I wanted to break it down for you guys. But yeah, that's my little backstory. I went to a JC for 2 years, so I got in and out of there right on time. I took around 15 units every semester. Some semesters I took 18, so the other one I could take 12, but I stayed within that range so that I could get in and out of there. I did 2 summer school classes. Again, just trying to keep up and make my semesters a little bit lighter on loads. But yeah, that's my little backstory. I did graduate from my 4-year and I graduated to transfer. So that's something you absolutely want to talk to your advisors about. Do you want to just graduate? Do you want to transfer? Or do you want to graduate to transfer? I graduated for some of my associates, and I did a graduation to transfer for my main major. So like what that means is I have my diplomas right here. I got 4. I'm not going to go into detail of what they all are, but I have 3 associates in arts within the different categories. And then this one specifically is an associate's AAT. So if you haven't already talked to a counselor, definitely talk to a counselor to figure out which path you want to go down. I went the graduation to transfer on my main major because that's what was going to make me look competitive. So it's basically that you took all your competitive classes in your major, you graduated with the AA, and you have enough credits to transfer and be at a top level like junior. So I'm not coming in like just barely being a junior. I'm a top level junior. So I have all the requirements that's needed of a junior and plus a little bit more of just, it's just your competitive level. It really, that's all it is. Colleges, when you're doing your application, they see an AAT, it'll ask you if you're getting an AAT, an associate's degree for transfer. It just kind of gives you a bump up, and I believe it gets you a 0.1, yes, it gives you a 0.1 boost in your GPA to have an AA for transfer. So that's my little backstory of what I did and where I am. So let's now get into the tips, okay? Tip number 1 is to make an appointment with your academic advising counselor as well as your transfer center advisor once a semester. So my first tip is going to be to not only talk to your academic advising professor once a semester to keep up, stay on track if you're trying to get in and out, or if you're just trying to get out, like you might have been there for a few years, now it's time to get out of there, it's time to transfer. Talk to them once a semester. They fill up with their, majority of the time, they fill up with their appointments October to November because that's transfer season. So if you can get in there September, December, that would be great. Or right when school starts, that kind of gets busy too because people are trying to drop classes. So September is really the sweet spot to really get a good appointment. Talking to them in December to plan out your spring semester is great too. It's just, it is hard to get in October and November. So if you're gonna try to get an appointment, really stay on top of it. My school did that every Monday morning. You can make an appointment through the week. So Monday mornings, I'd be in that office, like making my appointment. So maybe be online on Zoom or something to try to get an appointment with them right now. Crazy times that we're in. Or when we go back to school, really try to get in there and make those appointments so that you can talk to people. So I definitely recommend visiting your transfer center. All community colleges have a transfer center. You need to find yours. It's not something that just my school did. This is around the border. This is all around. The transfer center makes you competitive, where the academic advising just, sorry, I'm saying, I'm a communications major, like let's get our words together. Academic advising sets you up for success within that school and will set you to go somewhere else, but transfer center advisors will make sure that you are competitive and on track to getting where you want to go, and that's important. So make sure you check in with them once a semester. Now, don't just make an appointment with no substance. Every time you go for your little appointment, it's usually 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or an hour. Make sure you have questions to fill that time. Because you walk in and they're going to be like, what can we do for you today? What are we working on today? They're not going to be like, so did you do this, this, and this? It's all up to you. You're in college now, you're not a little kid. So it's time to get it together and have your questions ready. I would literally go in with my little Post-it or piece of paper with 3 to 5 questions depending on how long my session was. If you only have 30 minutes, 3 questions will pretty much fill your time. You can always have extras. If you have a whole hour, go for 5 or 6, like fill your time so that you feel like you got something when you left and you know what to do from now on. You're not just leaving there like, oh, I'm in the same spot. Make sure you have really good questions that will set you up for success. Try to think ahead. Think of next semester. Think of next year. Whatever you can be thinking of doing. Talk about what would make you competitive. All that good stuff. Tip number 2 is finding out what makes you competitive by talking to your counselors and learning what schools want to see from you on your transcript. When you're in your appointment with your transfer center counselor, you really want to talk about what makes you competitive. So if you don't already know what school you want to transfer to, that's kind of where you'd want to start with, hey, what schools are good in my major? Like, where should I be looking? Do I go the UC route or the Cal State route? If you're California, I'm sorry, I'm not really sure with other states, but that's just my personal, that's the California thing, is you either find a UC or a Cal State, but basically just go through your dream schools. What schools are your dream schools? What schools are your I will get in, your backup plans, those are always great. And if you get both, then you have the option. If you get into all your dream schools, boom, and you got into your backup schools. You just want options because honestly, your mind changes a million times. My freshman year, I really wanted to go to, right out of high school and my freshman year of my junior college, I wanted to go to UNLV, which is an out-of-state school, and then by the time I transferred, I wanted to go to San Diego State so bad. That was the one school I didn't get into. I applied to 4, I got into 3. That was the one I didn't get into. Oh well, Corona. It was a sign. Everything happens for a reason. I'm not gonna cry about it. But you want to talk to these counselors about what makes you competitive going to those schools, because each school is going to be looking for certain classes that you took. So they're not necessarily your regular GEs. There are other things that can count as your GEs, but make you competitive as well. So like I could have just taken, again, this is just my example because I'm a communications major. I could have just taken interpersonal communications, small group communications, and another public speaking. But my professor told me, hey, instead of taking your electives, like a fun elective like dance or something, you should be taking argumentation, essentials of argumentation, because all your schools that you want to go to look for that. So when they read your transcript and it's not on there, you're not competitive and they move to the next one. And I was like, oh my God, okay, so I really need to take that class. And so I made sure I had those specific classes that made me competitive. Because the school might not outright say on their website, you need this class, but when they're looking through their applicants, if they're accepting 60 and 75 have that class, you're definitely not getting in. Like, it just is what it is. It's all about how competitive you are. So find out what makes you competitive. Again, if you are early in your junior college experience, really look into the AAT. That's probably the best advice that someone gave me, was like, well, do you care about taking these fun classes? Because you get elective classes. And I was like, I mean, what would make me not want to take the fun classes? Like, what are you trying to bring up? And she was like, well, you have enough like units left that you could fulfill those units with classes to classify under the AAT. Or she was like, or you could get multiple degrees. And that's what happened. I took those classes that were for the other degrees just to have a stack of degrees under my belt. You feel me? Just make yourself feel good. Whatever you can handle, do it. Another thing that you will find in your transfer center, hopefully your school has access to this. It's kind of just dependent on where you're located, but hopefully your school has access to school reps. In my transfer center, there would be like a bulletin board, and every week they'd update what school reps were coming, literally every single week. So it'd be like, oh, this week UCLA and UC Berkeley are going to be on campus. Stop by if you have any questions for these reps. And the reps have more insight than your counselors do because they are specific to that school, so they know how that school runs. So I would just wait for that board to say something that, like, have a school on there that I cared about, and I was talking to the rep. They don't necessarily like see your application, but if they do and you introduce yourself, hi, my name's Malia, when they see my application, they might remember me, but they might not go through the applications. It just depends on what kind of rep it is. But of course, ask questions and get your specific questions for that school answered. Another tip for you would definitely be know why you want to go to that school. What makes that school appealing? Are they actually good in your major? Are they competitive in your major? Do they have room for you in that major? Are they impacted? Those are questions you need to ask. And it's okay if you want to apply to 2 schools that are impacted, but make sure you're applying to at least 1 school that's not impacted, because impacted schools mean that they have too many students in that major for the amount of classes that they have. So it's like, okay, well, you're never going to get the classes that you need to graduate on time because your school's so impacted that there's not room for you there. And don't apply in a different major than try to switch your major once you're there, because the same thing will happen. You'll still be at the bottom of the list because you switched majors once you got there, so it's not going to be in time for your registration. You won't be able to get those classes. Unless it's very similar majors, or maybe you can find that you do your major, but you find it better concentrate that matches what you want to do. I'm a communications major, but I don't want to be a public speaker. That's not what I want to do. I want to get into advertising. And I found a school that was the major of communications and the concentration of advertising. All my classes are advertising based. So I'm still getting that without having to change majors. So look into those things, see what subfields they have to see if those make you happy. And if you switch your major from your JC to your if you switch your major from your JC to your 4-year, you are going to lose units. And so it'll just be if your school will still accept you knowing that you don't have all the units. But sometimes they do. That's all things to talk to your counselor about. Okay, so these tips are now in the now. Those were kind of things that you want to do before transfer season. And now that we're in transfer season, these are what you got to do in the next 2 months, pretty much. So hang tight and we're going to get through this. Find out if you're eligible for the BOG waiver. The BOG waiver, I believe it's still the same from when I transferred. It is for free schools if you qualify. each school, you have to pay money to apply. Not even get in, just apply. And it's like, oh, you want all these options, but the more schools you sign up for, the more expensive it gets. So definitely see if you are eligible for the BOG waiver, because who doesn't like free money? That's basically what they're offering you, is for free school applications. So find out if you're, why can't I ever remember that word? Find out if you're eligible for the BOG waiver. That's step 1 of the actual transfer season. If you're going into the transfer season, you've probably already set your plan. Either you're going to be a CSU plan or a UC plan. And just remember that those different schools, if you're in California, those different schools have different time frames for their applications. So make sure you stay updated on whatever plan you're going for. Okay, so the next thing that you need to be doing in your transfer season is checking out your school's resources. My school offered a application workshop. I applied to the CSU system, so I went to the CSU application workshop. It was 3 parts. Part 1 was, I think, like meeting the schools and like what schools were good for what and all that stuff. Step 2 was applying and having all your paperwork that you're gonna need, like having your transcript nearby, because in your application to at least CSU, I'm not sure about UCs, you have to manually type in your transcript. So you need all that information right there so that you can just boom, I took this class, type it in. I took this class, this many units, this was my grade. And I did the workshop because, again, I was the lone wolf. I've never seen an older sibling go to college and what their experience was. I had cousins, but I didn't learn, like I needed to know what I needed to do to be successful, and everyone goes in different routes, and none of my family had gone the route that I did, so I needed that information. So I went to the workshops. They were free. You know, I'm already paying tuition to be here. I'm going to take advantage of the resources at hand. And that counts for all your resources, okay? If your school is a writing center and you have an essay to turn in, why aren't you running it by the writing center? Like your little 89, not little, like that's a bad score, but the 89 that you could have got could now be a 96 for free. You literally just go in there for 15 minutes. Can you just read this over and see if you see anything? They read the prompt, they read your essay, boom, boom, boom. They give you 5 corrections, and now you have like an A++. Same thing with like math and tutoring. Like, they're right there, they're free. I know y'all got breaks in between your classes. I know you do. But yeah, so I went to step 1, 2, and 3, and 3 was finding out your decision and responding back to your schools with like, yes, I'm coming, or no, I'm not coming. So that was how my school did the workshops, but definitely see if your school has that. If not, I would definitely get in and fill out your whole application with a advisor. They'll do that for you. Fill out your whole application with an advisor, because they'll definitely do that with you, for you, or sit in the library, fill it out, and then go to the transfer center to see how they see it. And that kind of leads us into my next tip, would be don't press submit before you do these last 2 things. These last 2 things are very crucial. And when I tell you this is where I messed up, this is where I messed up. And we'll get into that when I talk about my experience in a second. But these last 2 steps, once you're all done typing in all that information, your brain's kind of on overload. They just asked you 100 questions. You've just spent 2 hours typing everything in. Your brain's fried. Now, they say that it doesn't matter when you apply. If you apply on October 1st versus November 30th, they say it doesn't matter. I don't know what was in the back of my head, like, oh, you want to get your application in fast because they'll accept you faster. But I was very in that mindset, and they tell you to apply sooner the better, but they really just tell you to do that because they don't want you to forget and then it be too late, and they want you to apply to FAFSA because it's first come, first serve and all that stuff. But take your time with your application. Type it in, get all your stuff, walk away. Go have lunch, proofread it. Now that you've proofread it and everything seems right, take it to a counselor. Take it to a professor who can see something that you might not see. Add up all your units on your transcript. Make sure you hit that 60 mark, because you need 60 units to transfer. You need it. 49 ain't gonna cut it. You know, if you forget to type in the semester that you're actually taking right now and the units don't add up, boom, you out. So make sure you have someone who knows what the process is look over it as well. a professional, you know? I went to my transfer center and I filled it out with them, and then I went home and I was like, oh, I'm all done. Boom, submitted it. I'll tell you that story right now, okay? So those are gonna be the main tips that I really wish I knew going into transfer season. I hope that helps you out with all the tips and tricks, and I kind of just want to give you a breakdown of my experience so that if you have the same experience, you don't feel alone, and listen and learn from my mistakes. Do as I say, not as I do. Okay, so my experience transferring, I took all my competitive classes. I felt really ready. In my junior college experience, I only ever dropped one class. It was a math class, and it was business calculus, and I'm like, I'm a communications major. Why am I taking business calculus? And I took that W. And so I was kind of confused on how to put that. You have to claim your W. If you have any W's, you have to put it on your, it's on your transcript, so you have to put it on your application and stuff like that. Never fill out an application as a transfer student. I filled it out as a high school student because I did apply to some Cal States out of high school, but it just was more realistic for me to go to community college. So I had done the application before, but never as a transfer student. So I had questions. I went to my transfer center. I got questions answered. I went to my workshops, followed along in the workshops. Again, like I said, I filled out majority of it, and then I went home and I filled out the rest. When I filled out the rest, I just was so like, I gotta get this turned in. It's October 7th. I gotta get this turned in. And I proofread it myself, and then I submitted it. And when I submitted it, I was like, la-di-da-di-da, and the next day I went to school. And I had to take a lab, and the lab was only worth 1 point. The class was worth 3 points. And so I was taking like environmental biology, and then I took the lab as well. And of course, in my excitement to transfer, my excitement to press submit, I didn't put that last unit. And because of the way I was set up, I literally had 59 units without that one unit. I didn't have more than 60 units. I was right at 60 units ready to transfer. And so now I had just pressed submit. You can't go back once you press submit. You could press save and come back to your application, but once you press submit, it is in their system and it's gone. It's out of your hands. Luckily for me, I pressed submit and I couldn't get my application back to fix that. I literally went home, saw that I didn't have, because in my head I was sitting in class, did I put my lab class from my transcript onto my application? It's only 1 unit. Did I add them up? And I was like, I proofread them, but I didn't add them up. Like, I didn't add up the units I had. Sorry, I have like my little baby hair sticking out of my ponytail. I was like, I didn't add them up. Add up your units. You have to manually type in a transcript with 20 plus classes. Add up your units to make sure that there's no error, okay? I get home and I see that I didn't do it. I added them up. I was at 59 units. You need 60 to transfer. I bawled my eyes out for 3 hours. Bawled my eyes out. I was like, there's no way. Oh my God, I worked so hard to be competitive. I stayed on top of my stuff. I got straight A's. I tried to get in and out of community college in 2 years. And now I'm gonna be stuck here because no one's gonna accept me because I don't even fulfill the minimum requirement of 60 units. I was bawling my eyes out, bawling my eyes out. I said, screw the homework that I have to do tonight. It's not getting done because I'm not even gonna finish college. I was tripping out. I have Snapchats of me just like puffy-eyed, like, proofread your transcript, proofread your application. Like, I was a mess. I called my mom, literally, I'm super dramatic, by the way. I called my mom just crying on the bathroom floor, like, Mom, you don't understand. You don't understand. They're not gonna let me in. Okay, I already pressed submit. I can't get it back. Like, I was so dramatic. So dramatic. And so then immediately I got off the phone with her and I was like, I'm reading the stuff and it says that you can, after you press submit, you can't edit your work at all. And I was like, oh my God. And it says the only thing you can ever edit after you press submit is your mailing address if it changes between the time of the application and when you got accepted, because they mail you your stuff, you know? That's the only thing. And I was like, oh my God. And so then I called the company. I can't even think of the application company right now. I called the company's hotline and I'm talking to her. I'm like, is there any way on your side of the system you can fix this? She's like, no, it's locked. It's already sent to the schools. And I was like, have you heard any problems like this before? Do you know what I should do next? And she was like, all your schools are going to give you a portal, whether you have the eligibility to get into that school or not. They're all going to give you a portal, and they're going to ask you to submit your transcript, and there you can submit your transcript and they'll see that you have all 60 units, but like that's all you can really do for now. And I was like, I don't like the sound of that. Like the portal doesn't even come out till December. Like I'm just supposed to, I don't know what's going to happen until December. It's October 7th. No way. And so I just went on a whim and I was like, all right, my dream school at the time was San Diego State. I applied to Cal State Fullerton, which I go to right now. I applied to San Marcos and I applied to Long Beach. And I called their admissions. I sat waiting for the admissions for 3 hours for some of the schools. Some of the schools answered right away. And I was like, hi, my name's Malia. I just pressed submit on my application last night. And I feel really dumb, but I forgot to add one of my classes. I was super just excited to be applying to schools and I didn't catch that error. What should I be doing next? And some of the schools I did have to email my transcript, my unofficial transcript to right away, because they were like, oh, okay, we need to know that information, because once it says that you don't have enough units, it kind of kicks you out of our system, so we just see the people that are eligible. And I was like, so I emailed them the transcript for some of them. Some of them were like, oh, we have a supplemental application. Don't even worry about it. We don't decide admissions until you fill out the second application. So be looking out for that. Some schools do have a separate application that's like from right after Christmas until like mid-January that you have to fill out and get back to them. So I was like, okay. And they're like, just make sure everything is 100% accurate right there. But it definitely doesn't make you look good. It doesn't matter how competitive you are. If you can't fill out a simple form and you have typos and errors, like, I was just so sad. And all the schools made me feel like, oh, it's okay. There's mistakes all the time. But at the same time, I knew that there's perfect students out there. So I felt really defeated. At the end of the day, I didn't get into my dream school, but I got into my other 3 schools. And it's okay because everything happens for a reason. I would have been paying a lot more to go to San Diego State right now, mid-pandemic, not even being on campus. So I'm really okay with being at Fullerton. I'm pretty close to home. The commute isn't bad, and I don't really have to commute right now, but when I do go, it won't be bad. And it's a really good school. I'm having a great time there. I just had my first academic advising session today. Again, September, you got to get in September. It's September 30th. So I had my academic advising session. She set me up for the classes that I need to take next semester and if I want to take winter. So my transfer season was a success. There was definitely bumps in the road that you got to find your way through, but I believe in all of you and I know you can do it. So hopefully this video gave you some tips that you needed, or answered some questions that you had, or just made you feel a little bit more confident going into this transfer season. I know I was a hot mess. No, I just felt like I didn't know anything. I didn't know where to go, what to do. Check your emails all the time. After you press that submit button, you should be checking your emails every single day. Once they give you a portal, sign up with your portal. Check your portal every day because there's constantly being new stuff uploaded. They'll have a to-do list for you. They'll have holds. You need to fill out all that stuff to be on top of it. Just because you press submit of your first application doesn't mean you're done. There's so much more that comes behind it. And talk to your counselors. They're there for a reason. They get paid. You're low-key paying their bills, so use them. That's all I got for you guys today. Hopefully you found this video helpful. Please like this video if you did find it helpful, or if you just had a great time chilling with me. You feel me? Subscribe to be part of my journey here on YouTube. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all that good stuff, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks, guys.